Hi, so we're in beautiful Newport, Rhode Island at the conference of Mark 361, and I have Joe Zhao here. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us the name of the company and what you do?
Well, nice to meet you just now. It's an honor to be on this and meet all of your audiences. Well, I'm Joe Zhao. I'm a partner at a venture fund in New York called Millennia Capital. It's venture capital, growth equity, a little bit of blockchain. So I have a background in financial markets. So I was a macroeconomist for several years at the Fed and IMF, and then I left that world to do business. And I was in corporate finance, banking, and consulting, and then worked for a few private equity firms before kind of starting my own. So I kind of look at venture capital and private markets from the lens of like what's going on in the markets, economy, and try to make the best decisions that leverage kind of what's happening in the markets in our advantage. So that's sort of our secret sauce. And we do a lot of software investing, data companies.
Well, that's fascinating. Thank you for that introduction, Joe. I wanted to ask you, coming from a world where you were looking at the big picture from the macro world into the venture capital industry, you are. What problems are you focusing on, and kind of how you decided to focus on those specific problems? And maybe you could tell us a little bit about the companies that you have in your portfolio, and maybe some success stories as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I would say when you're working in like public markets and macro, I'm sure you did. You might have felt that way too back like when you were in the public markets. It's like you're looking at companies and problems and trends from like 30,000 feet. For me, I really wanted to get my feet wet and I wanted to like actually touch it as opposed to just like to study it, which is why I felt like venture capital, like private equity, you're actually dealing with like companies, issues, products, markets, customers. That felt to me a little bit more real and a little bit more exciting. So I would say in terms of investing, like we leverage like our understanding of where we are in the business cycle, the economic cycle, the market cycle to our advantage in terms of identifying and like investing into like private companies. And then in terms of like focus, like when you're looking at macroeconomics, a lot of the tools you use is like data driven, right? You're looking at data to understand macroeconomics. So I've also become like a data scientist part time. So which is why like when I got into private equity venture capital, a lot of the companies that I felt very comfortable with were like data driven companies. So things like Palantir, things like a lot of data companies, data driven insights, AI, machine learning are really just derivatives of like data. So when you're good with data, you can also like be looking at data driven technology companies. So yeah, we've done like things like Palantir, a lot of AI companies, a lot of like cybersecurity companies. Right now, a big part of our focus is cybersecurity, just because we think that like as the world go more digital, cybersecurity will just become like increasingly important. Also, I think like leveraging our background is like we think like for example like we may be entering into like a recession or slowdown economically wise, and in a recessionary environment or economic slow growth environment, a lot of corporations first cut advertising and marketing, but like operations defense are sort of a little more defensible, which is why cybersecurity and operations technologies are like I think a really strong investment theme for the next like 1 to 2 years. So yeah, that's kind of what we look at.
This is fascinating. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask you a final question. How you spend your day as a venture capitalist? What does your typical day look like?
You know, like I was talking to you, like I think running a business, entrepreneurs all feel I think the cumulative burdens of running a business, which is like a lot of your energy spent on like dealing with operations, whether it's like tax, audit, legal, accounting, payroll, employee, stuff like that, branding. So unfortunately, you know, the majority of my energy is spent on like keeping the lights on, but only a minority of my time is spent on like actually looking at like deals and fundraising, which is why we have a great team. But I would say my role is to like is to do as much as I can, like in terms of underwriting deals, looking at companies and fundraising and kind of promoting our thesis. But a lot of my energy is spent on like keeping the lights on. So that's like audit, tax, stuff like that. But I enjoy doing everything, and I think as we grow, I can hopefully spend a little more time looking at like investments.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe Zhao of Millennia Ventures and Anna Haskell of Padverb, and thank you very much for this insightful interview. Thank you.
Come join our 361 firm community of investors and thought leaders. We have a lot of events created by the community, as we collaborate on investments and philanthropic interests. Join us.